English, Standard 12, Unit 1, Prose, Two Gentlemen of Verona, written by A.J. Cronin, continued. But next morning, when I went over to the fountain to have my shoes shined, I said, Nicola, the way you and Jacopo work, you must earn quite a bit. You spend nothing on clothes. You eat little enough. When I see you have a meal, it's usually black bread and figs. Tell me, what do you do with your money? He colored deeply under his sunburn and then grew pale. He looked to the ground. You must be saving up to emigrate to America, I suggested. He looked at me sideways, spoke with an effort. Emigrate. Emigrate means take up citizenship. That emigrate means take up citizenship in another country. Take up citizenship of another country. Take up citizenship of another country. So that is emigrate. So the author, next morning, when he went over to the fountain to have his shoes shined, he asked Nicola the reason for working so hard and saving money. He inquired whether they would like to emigrate, whether they would like to move to America. Nicola smiled and replied that they had some other plans, and he did not reveal the plan. We should greatly like to go to the States, but here, at present, we have other plans. What plans? He smiled uncomfortably. Just plans, sir, he answered in a low voice. Well, I said, we are leaving on Monday. Is there anything I can do for you before we go? Nicola shook his head. But suddenly Jacopo said, Sir, he burst out. Every Sunday we make a visit to the country, to Polotto, 30 kilometers from here. Usually we hire bicycles. But tomorrow, since you are so kind, you might send us in your car. I had already told Luigi he might have the Sunday off. However, I answered, I'll drive you out myself. There was a pause. Nicola was glaring at his younger brother in vexation. Vexation means annoyance. Vexation. Vexation, annoyance. He just looked at his brother in vexation. We could not think of troubling you, sir. He didn't want to trouble him. It won't be any trouble. He bit his lip. Then, in a rather put-out tone, he said, Very well. The narrator told him that they were leaving Verona on Monday and asked him whether they would like to have any help from him on Sunday. Jacopo immediately asked the narrator to take them to Polotto, the nearby village, just 30 kilometers away from Verona. And Nicola hesitated, but the narrator agreed and took them to Polotto the following afternoon. The following afternoon, we drove to the tiny village set high upon the hillside. I imagined that our destinations would be some humble dwellings, but directed by Jacopo, We drove at a large red-roofed villa, surrounded by high stone walls. I could scarcely believe my eyes, and before I could recover breath, my two passengers had leaped from the car. We shall not be long, sir, perhaps only an hour. Maybe you would like to go to the cafe in the village for a drink? They disappeared beyond the corner of the wall. After a few minutes, I followed. I found a grilled side entrance and determinedly rang the bell. So when they reached Palato, and he thought that they would just go for a slum area or a small dwellings. But they directed him towards a red villa, a big bungalow. And he was just surprised to see that. And as soon as he reached that particular place, the two boys just came out of the car and ran towards the wall. And Nicholas said that the narrator would just wait for 1 hour, just for an hour. And if he would like to have a drink, he could have it in the nearby cafe. So that's what just he told him, and both of them ran towards the villa. A pleasant-looking woman with the steel-rimmed spectacles appeared. I blinked as I saw that she was dressed in the white uniform of a trained nurse. So the author now reached the villa without the knowing of these two small boys, and he rang the bell. He expected someone to open the door, but a woman came in nurse uniform. She looked as if she was a trained nurse, and she had steel-rimmed spectacles. So the author was surprised to see the nurse there. I just brought two small boys here. Ah, yes. Her face lit up. She opened the door to admit me. Nicola and Jacopo, I'll take you up. Now immediately, the nurse, just without asking, understood that he had come for Nicola and Jacopo. And she was so happy to take the author to them. She led me through a cool, tiled vestibule. You know, vestibule means lobby. Vestibule. Lobby. She led me through a cool, tiled vestibule lobby into the hospital. For hospital, the villa has become. So the villa has become a hospital. He never thought that it would be a hospital. At the door of a little cubicle, the nurse passed. Cubicle means a partition without glass. The nurse passed, put her finger to her lips, and with a smile bade me look through the glass partition. The two boys were seated at the bedside of a girl of about 20, who propped on pillows to their chatter. The two boys were seated at the bedside of a girl of about 20, who propped up on pillows, wearing a pretty lace jacket, was listening to their chatter. Her eyes soft and tender. One could see at a glance her resemblance to her brothers. A vase of wild flowers stood on her table, beside a dish of fruit and several books. The girl was seated in the bed, propped up on pillows. She wore a pretty lace jacket. She was listening keenly. Eyes were soft and tender. And anyone could just say at a glance they were brothers and sisters because she resembled her brothers. A vase of wild flowers, a dish of fruit, and several books were kept on her table. "Won't you go in?" the nurse murmured, said in a low voice. "Lucia will be pleased to see you." I shook my head and turned away. I felt I could not bear to intrude upon this happy family party. But at the foot of the staircase, I drew up and begged her to tell me all she knew about these boys. I shook my head and turned away. I felt I could not bear to intrude upon this happy family party. Intrude means enter without permission. Intrude. Enter without permission. Without permission. The author did not want to enter without the permission of the boys. But at the foot of the staircase, I drew up and begged her to tell me all she knew about these boys. He said no to the nurse, but he asked the nurse to tell all about the boys. He was very eager to hear about the boys. Let us continue this lesson in the next class.